Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Discover Third Eye Training to Awaken Your Intuitive Powers, How to Read Energy and Navigate Life with Clarity. My name is Stephen Dine. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm really delighted to be with you here, getting to learn more about opening our intuitive capacities, our psychic abilities with one of the foremost teachers of this area. His name is David Gandelman. He's an author and he's a spiritual teacher. He's really explored a lot of this terrain of how to open up psychically, which can really transform your life in so many ways because you've got a higher guidance system for navigating every major decision, understanding other people, relationship dynamics. So there's a lot that can open up in addition to connecting with folks on the other side or discarnate guides. So the third eye is really the locus of a lot of spiritual practice and awakening, and David's really here to demystify it for us. So David, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Hey, Stephen, great to see you.
Great. Well, I'm super excited for today. I know you got a lot that you want to share. And I also want to let everyone know we're going to have a brand new training with David called the Third Eye Training. We'll share more about that towards the end of the hour. So more to come. So David, let's begin our journey today with a little bit about your journey and what propelled you into really teaching about the third eye.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I got my degree in Western philosophy. I went and lived in the ashrams in India, shaved my head, sat meditating all day, did all the things I thought would bring me to enlightenment. In my early 20s, I definitely had a bit of that I know it all arrogance. I studied all the texts, sat with all the gurus. I chased every guru that had a beard. I thought they would have all my answers. Oh, look at him. He's old. Yeah, it's a total tell. And there was a certain point where, not that I got stuck, but I felt like I had crammed all the information into my head and I was, really up here. And I think that's a very natural part of the spiritual growth cycle where you get the information and it's in your head and you think you know it. And then one day I had a friend he said, hey, try getting an intuitive reading from my partner. She's an awesome intuitive reader. And I was like, I don't even know what that is. I've never heard of that, but I'll try it. So we're on the Ganges River at a restaurant, sitting on some cushions. She sat me down. She closed her eyes. And it was the first time in my life where somebody could really see inside me. It was like she could see how I felt, what I'd been through, the path I was walking. And I had never experienced that. And it kind of shattered my worldview. And that early 20s, I know it all energy that I was in. And even at one point, I remember feeling, oh my God, my chest is so itchy. I just want to scratch it, but I don't want to move and ruin her reading. And she said, there's this really intense itch on your heart. And I was like, oh God. And I just started scratching. That's how clearly she saw me. And I was having nightmares. She helped me clear some of that energy and they went away. And I asked her, where in the world did you learn how to do that? I've studied Western philosophy, Eastern philosophy. I've sat in Vipassanas. I've done all the meditations. I've chased all the gurus, but I don't know what that was. And it was really freaking cool. And she said, I trained at this school in Hawaii and they're still open, you go give it a shot. So I literally bought a plane ticket. I moved to the big island of Hawaii and I ended up living there for 7 years training at this school. And for the last 3 years, I became the director and I guess you could say head teacher, or I was guiding the programs. And so I spent 7 years sitting in a chair with my eyes closed, doing intuitive readings, healings, energy work, meditating, all the super cool woo-woo stuff. But I think I did it, and the school did it in a very grounded and safe way, which is, in my experience in spirituality, not something that you always get. And so after doing thousands of readings and teaching a lot of classes, teaching students how to awaken their third eyes, how to see energy, how to be grounded, how to do it in a safe way, I eventually decided to get off the island after having a bit of island fever and started teaching out on my own, started my own intuitive school, and eventually connected with Shift. And so now I teach students how to sit, close their eyes, and do this work for themselves. I have retired from giving readings, but I continue to teach people how to do readings for themselves and for other people.
It's interesting that you had done all of that sort of enlightenment work, and then they bypassed the whole value of the third eye and intuitive abilities to some extent. And I wonder if that you want to speak to a little bit of how there's sometimes a bias towards like transcending some of these skills, or like not necessarily cultivating them, versus like really seeing them as part of our divine gift or blessing that is can really accelerate our path.
That is very common, Stephen, in the East. Don't touch your spiritual abilities, ignore them, meditate through them. In the East, they call them cities. And so I took that philosophy to heart as well at first. And then I realized this is a natural part of me. There's an intuitive, sensitive part of me that could see, feel, know things. And I want to explore this. And when I started exploring it, it led me down a path of really deep healing as well. The way I look at my life looking backwards is I first got a lot of really great teachings from male Eastern spiritual teachers, a lot more heady, philosophical based energy. And it was very much the philosophy of sit down, close your eyes, find enlightenment, and you're done. And then when I went and studied in Hawaii, I had all female teachers, very feeling based, very intuitive, very much validating. This is how you feel in the moment. This is the energy you're noticing. This is how you navigate. And I felt like I got the almost masculine spiritual teaching and then the feminine, and integrated them, into myself and in my own way. And I was so grateful for that experience, because it's so easy to just land on one side or the other. You find one teacher, you always listen to their point of view, and then you kind of become their point of view, whether you want to or not. And I felt very lucky that I explored so many avenues, sat with so many different kinds of teachers, did so many different spiritual paths, which is, I know, something that you did as well. And it really helped round me out. And then when somebody now, they ask me, well, what do you teach? What's your philosophy? What's your lineage? I kind of shrug, because it's all of the above and it's me. And the conversation has to be a bit longer to get that out of me.
Yeah, I like to call it spiritual cross training, because it's sort of like with physical cross training, where you different exercises and sports like work you in different ways. So let's talk about the third eye, and maybe from your vantage, since you've spent a lot of time working with the third eye. First of all, what is it, and why is it so valuable to open? And then we can go into a little bit the process of working with it in a grounded way.
Sure. And I always start by telling my students, to open the third eye, what we want to do is close our physical eyes. So we shut our physical eyes, we move our awareness into our subjective inner experience, and that's when we start to open that inner eye. So we have our physical eyes that can see the objective material worlds. We could see shape, form, color, see at a distance. And when we close our physical eyes, we can see feelings, thoughts, energy. And in my experience, we can see our own path, and we might even be able to look into and see somebody else and see how they're doing on the inside, just like I was sharing that story earlier. And then you could take that pretty far. We know folks like James Van Praagh, where his whole deal is to talk to the deceased. And there are people who are medical intuitives, and they use their third eye to see if there's physically something wrong with someone, and they help them heal. There are folks who use their third eye to help people find their life path, to help them heal emotional and spiritual wounds, to read past lives. And so the way I like to frame it is, I often teach the foundations. So maybe you come to medical school with me, and then perhaps you want to go be a cardiologist or a brain surgeon or a foot doctor or whatever it is. You can have a specialty, but before you do, you want to understand the foundations of opening the third eye and doing it in a safe, grounded way, so that it doesn't take you for a ride, which I see happen all the time.
So let's explore those safe foundations, and what are the kind of necessary conditions to really start to work with and open the deeper perception in a way that really is most beneficial.
So that's actually quite a complicated question that has a lot of levels to it. But I would start with, first of all, being grounded, which we've probably all heard in different ways, shapes, a million times. But I teach specific visualization tools, and one we'll do today that help you actually energetically ground yourself and connect yourself to the planet. So we're all earth beings, as Alan Watts says. We pop out of this earth the way an apple tree comes off of the way an apple comes off of an apple tree. So the earth peoples. And so we want to be grounded and connected to the planet that we're born from, in the same way that when a child is born, there's an umbilical cord connected back to its mother, that there's a safety there. And then obviously it needs to be cut. But as we grow up into adults, we still need a bigger umbilical cord that connects us into the earth that we're always a part of. And so we start with energetic grounding. That's foundational to be safe when we do this kind of work. And then there are more, let's say, spiritual, emotional, energetic layers. So, for example, if you go and start doing healing or reading work in the intuitive space, and you've got some pretty deep wounds that you haven't looked at or healed, what often happens is you start to see your clients or the people you're working with through those filters. And also they tend to get triggered when you sit with a client. So if you have a deep heartbreak wound and you sit with somebody and they ask you to look at their heartbreak wound and help with it, it's going to be hard for you to be neutral and safe because you're going to be so triggered by what you're seeing. This is the part that most healers skip over a bit. It tends to take a long time to work through all of these layers, energies, and wounds that we all have just by being on this earth. Nobody gets out of suffering and pain as a human being. But what happens is everyone wants the really shiny object, the juicy stuff. I want to see the energy. I want to see the future. I want to talk to deceased people and angels. But if you do that without doing that inner work, it starts to bleed into everything that you do. So a lot of the work of being safe as an intuitive healer and reader, for me, is healing yourself on the inside so that it doesn't filter out into whatever kind of work that you're doing. Now, that being said, no, we're not going for perfect, because then there would be no healers on the earth. But you do want to do a certain amount of work, just like you would if you were to become a therapist, right? You don't go in there without having done any inner work. It's going to be pretty messy. And then there's the ethics side of it, what to say, what not to say, how to say it. Very short story. I had a friend of mine who went to a psychic, and she said, look, I really want to meet my life partner. And the guy said, you're not going to meet anyone for 5 years. And she came to me just in tears, Stephen. She was just like, I can't believe it. I'm in my mid-30s. No. And I said to her, listen, that's not true. He programmed you with that information, and it's not your truth. If you don't feel that is true, let that go. And she did. Within the year, she met someone, had 3 kids, and a nice, big, happy family. But that was an example of someone doing it in a dangerous way, in an ungrounded way, without certain ethics, and probably with no training or very little training around how to communicate. So I hope that gives you a little bit of a window into what I mean about being safe and grounded.
Yeah, really great examples. And so let's talk then now about like the actual steps to awakening the third eye so that we can begin to perceive from this higher level.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's break it down into, let's do 4 simple steps. So the first step that I like to do is grounding and centering. We'll say that's one step. And we could do this in meditation. So I was mentioning that umbilical cord into the earth. And then the other part of that is orienting ourselves into the third eye space. So between our 2 temples, and if you're watching this, you can rub these temples if you like. In between these 2 temples is let's call it our inner temple. This is kind of the home base of our consciousness. This is where most of us experience most of the day, where we see our thoughts and our memories. And so we orient ourselves into that space. So we know where we're looking from. If I was trying to look at the world, Stephen, through my ears, it would be hard. I don't see over there clearly. So when we close our physical eyes, we orient to look out of the front of our heads, from the center of our heads. And we can do that in meditation as well. So that's step 1. Step 2 is where we decide what we want to look at. So we allow that question or energy to arise. So for example, I want to look at my career energy that I'm stuck on, or a wound of mine that needs healing, or a relationship energy, my spiritual path, a creative project. anything and everything that might come up for us that we're looking for some clarity around or some healing around. So the second step is sitting, letting that question, letting that energy arise or rise to the surface. And then the third step is actually seeing the energy. And so for this, we often use different kinds of symbols. So we'll put the energy inside of a symbol so we can see it from our mind's eye. And so we're not just looking around aimlessly, like, where is it? And I do want to caveat that with, there are some people that can't see. It's a condition. It's very, very rare. In those instances, I'll have them sense, know, feel. But for the vast majority of people, they can see, but it's just that their third eye is an atrophy. They haven't used it much in this way. And so everything's a bit blurry or distant or foggy. And it takes practice to really strengthen that muscle. So that third step is we start to see energy. And then the fourth step is finding clarity, which might include releasing energy around a topic. So, I see something cloudy, but my sense is there's a lot of frustration there, doubt, shame, guilt, pain. And so in that fourth step, we might see what's sitting on top of our answer and let it start to melt off so that the true deep answer can arise. And I always tell my students our answers are often born out of our energy. So as we read energy, we might be shifting our energy. And as we release layers, that answer starts to crystallize.
How do you work with sort of, not maybe pollution is not the right word, but like exchange of energy, or sort of the what's yours and what's the other person's, when you're picking up, when you're reading in a situation?
Yeah, that's a great question, and where most people have trouble, because a lot of us are sponges to the energy of the world. Let me break that down into two kinds of sponges. Some folks tend to be emotional sponges or feelers, and so they absorb the energy of the world through their feelings. And some people are very mental, and so in a telepathic way, they absorb the mental pollution of the world. Now, of course, we all do both, but if you ask most people, they have a center of gravity where they tend to do one or the other more. And so it's good to, first of all, know which one you lean towards, what your tendencies are. And then the second part is, how open and sensitive are you? So there's this idea, I think, in spirituality, that being more sensitive and more open is better. And that's an assumption that might not always be true. So a lot of times I'll have my students turn the volume down, almost like a volume knob, on that excessive empathic feeling space, or that on that over analytical thinking part of their minds, and bring it almost into a hum, the way you would put a car into neutral, and just let it's on, but it's not, it's kind of still. And then the deeper part of that, let's say part 3 of that, would be releasing the energy that we have absorbed. And there are tools that I teach to be able to do that. So we can start to recognize the energy that we've absorbed as we sit still. And that takes practice, like anything, but you start to get a sense like, wow, I sense frustration, but it wasn't here earlier. And I can feel and sense that it didn't come from me. And you slowly learn how to see energy and see where the frustration came from. It came from that conversation, or that doubt came from my parents, or that fear came from the school I went to growing up. You start to see and sense that energy by meditating and using certain tools. And then you release that energy. And then when you do, it's much easier to see your own answers. So people's answers are right there. They tend to just be covered up with a lot of energy. And often it is the energy of the world.
Really useful distinction. So how do you then, so if you start to notice this separation between your own energy and the energies of others, the emotions of others, or the flow, how do you start to kind of clear that so that you're in a place of a clear reading with your third eye?
Yeah, great question. There's a number of energy tools that I teach to do that. One example is seeing the room in the center of your head, or a room. Maybe it looks like a closet, maybe it's a warehouse, maybe it's an office or a Zen monastery. not trying to create one, but just seeing what does it actually look like up in here. And I remember the first time I did this exercise, it was like a dark closet, Stephen. I was like, where are the freaking lights? What's going on in here? There's cobwebs. It's scary. I don't like it. No one's been in here for way too long. And so I had to actually flip the light switch on and clean the space out and change it to an energy that I was really comfortable with. So I redesigned the center of my head. And that's something you could do over and over again. And there is a difference between imagining and visualizing and seeing energy. So, for example, if I ask someone to close their eyes and just see what their head center of head looked like without trying to put anything on top of it, that's different than me saying visualize you're on top of a beautiful mountain and everything is perfect. That would be overriding what's actually there. And that is how we learn how to read energy. So we're not visualizing and we're not interpreting. We're just seeing, and then we use the sense of knowingness. So, for example, when I see you in the camera, I'm not interpreting, I think that's Stephen because it looks like him. There's a knowingness, right? And it's akin to if you've ever had a dream and there's somebody in the dream who they have a different form. They're usually a man, but now they're a dog, whatever it is. But there's a knowingness of who that person is. There's just a sense of knowingness. It's an ability in and of itself. When we start to see and read energy, we bring that in as well, and that helps us gain clarity. So that center of head tool is one way that we start to clean out some of that excessive mental noise from the world. Using a grounding core tool and letting it almost flush out is another one. And there are some others as well. And so there are so many wonderful tools, but essentially they're all inside of when I teach it in a meditation. So we close our eyes, we find stillness, we get a sense of the energetic landscape, maybe the emotional weather. And then we sit with that and we start to differentiate what is ours, what isn't. And even just that awareness in and of itself, some of the energy will come off on its own. Just a simple, still, neutral acceptance with a clear mind's eye will help release so much of that energy.
Makes a lot of sense. And I'm wondering if you can go into a little bit. So there's the perception of energy and what might be behind patterns. And how do you then go to the next level of sort of healing intention or using the wisdom and perception of the third eye to actually like heal the underlying patterns?
Yeah. And it's like, all right, well, how do I see the future too and do all the cool things? Everybody wants that part. And it is amazing to get to it. But like you said, as you mentioned, the healing, that's what usually comes first, because when most human beings close their eyes, what they encounter first is the noise, the distraction, the fear, and the pain. That's part of the human condition. And so that first of all, I want to say that's totally normal and okay if that's what happens when you start meditating. And then to your question, Stephen, of how do we actually start to do some of that inner healing, which is also a pretty big question. What I like to do when I close my eyes and focus on something I want to heal, I will look at it in a very energetic way. So, for example, if someone says to me, David, I have a lot of doubt, and it's been paralyzing me from making business decisions, life decisions, relationship decisions. It sucks, and I'm stuck. And that's usually when they come to me when they feel like they're out of some options. And so I'll say to them, with your eyes closed, I want you just to describe the doubt. First of all, let's find it somatically. Where is it in or around the body? For example, they might say it's on the heart. If it's on my chest center. Then I'll ask them, what is the color, the shape, the density, the form of it? Maybe they might say something like it's gray, it's cloudy, it's got a few sharp edges, and it's pretty dense and heavy. Great. Now we're really getting somewhere because I'm getting them out of their heads. If somebody starts telling me a story like, well, my father said this and this happened 2 years ago, then I know they're not actually in the energy with me. They should be describing it almost like a kindergartner, just saying colors, shapes, forms, and there should be a fair amount of uncertainty. Then I know they're actually in it with me. It's like, because they're grasping in the dark, learning to turn the lights on. That's what I'm looking for. So when someone comes with a really refined answer, I'm like, you're not in it, you're in your head. So I got to get them out of the analytical part of their heads and into more of the center front part where they're seeing and experiencing energy. And then we unwrap that further. So if I was to ask them, I want you to look into that gray, dense cloud of doubt that's sitting on your chest. Look inside of it and let it reveal to you the energy or an energy that caused it. Sit with it for a while. They might go, wow, underneath the doubt, I see fear. Now we've pulled back another layer. And in that fear, they might start to find an actual memory. So an actual memory from childhood or teenage years, whenever, might pop up. And then we can go really deep. So we found kind of the root cause of what that doubt was or is. And it might be like, oh, I'm just trying to make an investment decision, but I'm stuck. But when we look really deep, it's like when they were 12 years old, their dad, taught them something about money that just didn't vibe with them, that wasn't aligned. Like always save, never spend. Everyone will take your money, whatever. And it turns into this gray, heavy doubt on the chest, Stephen. And then they can't make a financial decision. And it's so deep, so unconscious, so far back. What they don't realize while they're walking through this whole process with me is they're learning to see and read energy the whole time. That's what they're doing. Now, if I had them look at somebody else, they can learn to do the same thing for someone else. So we can read ourselves and we can read others in the same way, which is a trip. It's so cool that works. And so when they pull up that core energy, that picture, that memory, then we start to work and heal that. And then eventually it kind of pops. Now that might take one session, it might take 1,000. There could be so many layers. We all have really complex, deep wounds. And I never say I'm the best healer. We all need therapists, coaches, healers, guides, all of the above. So it might just be one angle that we come at an energy with. But the last thing I'll say about that is, in my experience, the answer is always inside the energy, and everyone wants to go around it. But I love this quote from the poet Robert Frost. He says, the only way around is through. And so people want to go around the doubt and get to the answer on the other side. But what they don't realize is the answer is on the inside of the doubt. It's covered up, and it flowers when they uncover it and heal. And that really is the beautiful process of reading energy and then finding our answers. And that's the part we all kind of naturally want to shy away from, but we have to lean in. And that's where the magic happens.
Beautifully shared. Well, I know you want to lead us in a practice to start to really embody the core principles you're teaching. So you want to do that now?
I would be happy to. All right, let's rock and roll. That's how we can start meditating, by rocking and rolling. Mm-hmm. So you could sway a little bit, close your eyes, roll your shoulders. Maybe my style of meditation is a little bit more loose, open, and playful than some of what y'all have experienced before, because in my experience, when you do hit an energy like me and Stephen have been talking about, and it is heavy or serious, if you match the vibration of that heavy and seriousness, it pulls you down further. So what I want you to do as you close your eyes is, I mentioned this earlier, but go ahead and rub your temples for a moment with your index and middle fingers, if you like, and just orient your awareness right in the center of your head, behind your eyes, in that third eye space. You could put your hands down when you feel ready to. Just be here for a moment, nice point of consciousness. And I want you to see yourself in the center of your head, in whatever room you notice. We're not going to do a big healing on our heads right now. You just notice yourself sitting on a cushion or in a chair in the center of your head. And the front of your head is like a big window or screen, maybe an IMAX theater. So this is the direction you're going to be looking out at. So we're orienting our awareness. And just in case you need to, you can kind of take your hand to the side to make sure the light switch is on if it's dark in there. Flick the light switch on. And let's also, as we're in this space, as we're starting to center in our heads, let's ground our physical and energetic body here. So I want you to imagine a nice big ship anchor rowing out of the base of your spine into the earth. You can feel and see how big and heavy it is. Let its weight just pull you down into the planet, anchor it under a big rock. There's something that feels so good if you've ever done it, being on a boat and you take the ship anchor and you toss it over the side. And then the boat can't go anywhere, even if there's a storm, even if the weather gets dicey. It's here to keep you present and still and grounded. So notice that ship anchor keeping your body safe and present. And notice your awareness behind your eyes in the center of your head with the lights on. Might seem like multitasking, but it's a pretty simple thing we've got going on here. Just in our heads, nice and grounded. And again, be light about it. Don't make it too difficult. You're just aware behind your eyes. And now what I want you to do is decide or allow one energy to arise in your awareness that you want to look at right now. One energy you want some insight about, some clarity, some direction. And I don't want you to choose it intellectually. I want it to arise for you. You might be surprised by what it is. It might be a relationship energy or work, project, creativity, spirituality, life path. Just let it arise. If you're like, David, I'm a little confused about what to choose, it's okay. Just choose something. Or perhaps it's just, I'm looking for clarity. That's it. Once you get a sense of what it is, we're going to start to look at it. So I want you to put a nice big soap bubble out in front of you in your mind's eye. We've all blown bubbles as kids. It's super fun. Notice a nice big soap bubble out in front of you in your mind's eye, and the energy of your question is going to incubate in this bubble. So it's going to start to form. And now you have a direction to look. So there's a soap bubble in front of you, your question is in it, and the energy is going to form. It might form into a picture, into a color, into a shape, or you might just get a sense. And I want you to just ask a question. Ask a very clear question about what this energy is. For example, what is my next step in my career space? What is keeping me stuck in my relationship space? What is the purpose of my spiritual growth? Why am I stuck around this creative project? So choose that question, allow the energy to be in a soap bubble, and then let's see what happens. This is where I want you to just let it be, as Paul McCartney often tells us, and just look. And you can use the sense of feeling it's okay, a sense of knowing, and or a sense of seeing. You might even hear a word. But see if you can focus just a bit more on seeing. So is there a color, a picture? I want to mention here that it's the next step of your journey, the next answer, maybe not the ultimate one. So if you go, David, I'm looking and all I'm getting is confusion or doubt, well, that's the next step here, is to heal that layer or to peel back that layer or to work through that energy. So that is your answer. So if there's any confusion, doubt, fear, lack of certainty, that's your next step. That's your answer. That's what you're here to work through. If you're like, there is nothing, I'm empty, David, this isn't working, well, then perhaps there's an emptiness here that you want to heal. Whatever it is that you see or experience, that's it. If you're someone that says, oh, this can't be it, well, then maybe there's a layer of self-doubt and invalidation that's coming off. So that's our fourth step here, is finding clarity around our answer. Finding clarity doesn't mean we get the ultimate answer right now, but it means I can see the energy I need to work on to reach my next step. I want you to validate whatever that is. And I promise you, I sat in a chair for thousands of hours working through layers of invalidation, confusion, doubt, seriousness, pain, all the things. That's what self-mastery is. So instead of judging yourself, just look at the energy, let a layer of it peel off. It might melt off, it might peel off, it might evaporate. And just allow your next step answer to crystallize. So before we finish, give yourself the space to let that next step answer truly crystallize. Let yourself feel it, be vulnerable, really be with it. The fastest way to the truth is through self-honesty, vulnerability, and presence. The answer might surprise you. It might validate what you've already been feeling. Allow yourself to really see and integrate whatever it is that you notice. Notice that you're still connected to the earth through that big ship anchor. You're behind your eyes. And you see your answer. I want you to smile at it. Give it a bow of gratitude. Take a big, deep breath in. Nice, easy, soft sigh out. When you do, you could take that bubble, send it off into the stars. You could work on it again anytime that you want. Great work. And when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes, stretch yourself. As one of my students likes to say, stretch whatever needs stretching. And come out of meditation. Good job.
Nice. Well, thank you for that. Really very clear and helpful. And what do you then recommend? How do we hold and work with whatever guidance emerged?
Yeah, great question. So for most people, Stephen, what happens is they tend to hit a layer or two of energy before they get their ultimate, let's say, answer. So let's say there's 10 steps somebody needs to take until they realize this is my life partner, or this is the career I want to pursue, or this is the next project. They need to get through layers of doubt and fear and shame, whatever they are. So assess what step you're actually on. You could meditate on that. I'm actually only about 30% of the way there. I can feel it. I sense it. So now I've measured this energy and I know how much work I have to do versus why am I not at the top of Mount Everest right now? This is invalidating me, which is what often happens to us, right? So know where you actually are. That's the most important thing. Get the help that you need. Classes, coaches, guidance, all of it. Ground a real meditation practice. And you can do this exercise over and over and over again with any part of this. So if you're like, I asked a question about relationships, but all I got was doubt, well, then just sit and ask the question, where did this doubt come from? And start peeling those layers back. And that becomes the core of the meditation. And then you find, oh, under the doubt was fear. And that becomes a whole meditation. Self-mastery takes a lot longer than we sometimes want it to. But there's this lovely quote. Most of us overestimate what we can get done in a year and underestimate what we can get done in 5. And I think self-mastery is very much true in that way. But when you really do the work, people are going to throw energy at you, judgment, fear, doubt, and it'll start to go through you, bounce off of you, ground under you, and you'll continue on your path. And part of strengthening that third eye, that muscle, is becoming spiritually grounded and strong so that we can follow our path no matter what the world throws at us. And if we do lose ourselves, we know how to come back to ourselves. And if you do these kinds of meditations over and over, you're going to refine yourself. And on the inside, you're going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Well, I love that there's this common thread that it sort of seems connected to your path too, of like not rushing or trying to jump steps or get ahead of the game, just like one step in front of the other. And what's the next layer? What's the next layer? What's the next piece? Rather than get over attached to sort of the being sort of at a destination or the top of the mountain or totally clear and done. So I really appreciate that wisdom that you've earned.
Yeah, thank you. And from experience of doing it that way, Stephen, of wanting to be on top of Everest all the time and then being frustrated.
So yeah, I'd love to hear just a little bit more about sort of keeping sort of like almost like hygiene of like how to be keeping in your day-to-day world, your sort of your third eye really clear of outside influences and sort of that you can use it as a resource that whenever you need it.
Absolutely. So let's do one simple tool. If you do one tool every day, I think it'll really help. You close your eyes, find that room in the center of your head. And by the way, this is not something I made up. This is many teachers have taught me this tool over time, and I love it. Find that room in the center of your head. See if it's the right size. Is it a closet or a warehouse? Too small, too big, too dark, too messy? Is there a bunch of trash in there? Other people's energy? And as you sit with that, you can start to clean it out. Take a broom, a vacuum, a duster, sit and clean that energy out. As you do that, you'll realize you're becoming more and more aware of energy. Wow, there's my father's voice in the top left corner, and there's my sister's doubt on the bottom right, and there's society's program all over my desk. And you can kind of clean it up with whatever tool you decide you want to use and toss it out the side, out of the trash bin. The caveat of that is some people just override it and visualize what they want to see. Yes, I'm cleaning, I'm all clean, I'm great. There is an art of being honest with what's there and if it's really coming out or not. That takes true self-honesty and being present and vulnerable. And that's not something easily teachable. Some people just get in their heads and override it and try to intellectualize it. So if that is something that you do, you really want to make sure you dial that back and be honest and present with what the energy is. If you're sitting there crying, going, my head is so full of noise, then you're probably being honest. And if you're like, woo, I am perfect, then you're probably full of baloney. The answer is more likely somewhere in the middle, and there's probably some noise if you haven't done this too much and some energy of the world. And you can do this every day. You can do it in the morning and you could do it at night, like maintenance, as you were saying, clean out the noise from the day and then go to sleep with a really clear mind.
Well, David, such practical and powerful insights that you're offering, and clearly based on a lot of hard-won experience and a lot of training and with step-by-step work. So really helpful insights already here that you've shared. And so I want to spend some time now talking explicitly about your upcoming program, which I really think is such a great way for people to cultivate a really grounded practice of opening and being able to discern information and get guidance from the third eye. So the program is called the Third Eye Training. Perceive and read energy fluently, expand your internal guidance system, and navigate life with greater clarity. You can find it at the URL Third Eye Training, all spelled out, thirdeyetraining.com. It's a 7-week program and really takes you from square one, that you don't have to have previous training in this area. You don't even necessarily have to have a sense of your own intuitive capacities, that David's really going to lay the foundations with you so that you can build this capacity and be able to access it as a regular gift for your life. So, David, I'd love for you to share a little bit about, on the high level, of third eye training and how it really create such a helpful foundation for navigating life.
Absolutely. And let me just start out by saying Shift was asking me what course I wanted to teach. And I sat with it for a while and I thought, if I could teach one thing, this would be it, because these were the foundational tools that I learned to really start awakening to energy, developing my intuitive abilities, and finding my own answers. And so that's why I chose to teach this course in particular, because I think it's something that you could take for the rest of your life and use these tools no matter what level of spirituality you're at. And they're going to be super helpful. And they really are the foundation to seeing energy and finding answers. So I just want to start by saying that. And so we're learning the energetic tools like the center of head, the grounding cord, going deeper into those, the energy field. I don't want to get ahead of it because you're going to mention each module, where we're going to learn how to orient our consciousness, see our own answers, clear energy, and really awaken our spirit. Let's call them spiritual or intuitive abilities.
So module 1 is called Master Grounding and Energy Perception to Awaken Your Energetic Insight.
So we're going to go much deeper into what it means to be grounded. When I was doing my intuitive training in Hawaii, I got a nickname. It's embarrassing, but I'll share it. I actually kind of like it too, but they used to call me Cosmic, because my awareness, my energy would be just up in the stars, Stephen. You would have to peel me out of the sky, off the ceiling, and get me back into my body and into my chair. And it took me a good couple of years to get my awareness back into my body. I was so good at being in the future. I was so good at being up in another dimension. And so a deeper level of grounding and being psychically safe is being in the body. I remember I was very briefly working with a student once, and she told me she had changed her name. And I was looking at her energy, and it was so clear she had disassociated and left, changed her identity, and she wasn't even there anymore. And her life was spinning out of control because the soul that belonged in that body quit and took off. And so the job was to, first of all, if she wanted to start coming back into her body and owning the pain and deciding, I will be a human being incarnated here on this rough planet and learn the lessons. And so that's a deeper layer of grounding. And we learn tools to be able to do that. And that helps us see energy in a really clear way when we're in our bodies and in our third eyes, not doing it from some nebulous space floating around.
Module 2, Understand and Navigate Energy Fields to Achieve Inner Harmony.
This is the fun part. We could call it an aura, an energy field. We all have our energetic space. And as we were talking about earlier, we absorb energy from the external world that might spin us out, unground us, kick us out of our bodies. And so we go over what our energy field is, how to work it, how to keep it safe, how to manage it in a healthy way. This is another foundational tool to being a good, grounded, healthy reader.
Module 3, See and Connect with Your Chakras to Unlock Energetic Wisdom and Clear Blockages.
Here we approach the chakras as energy sensors. So, and I've heard you talk about this before, a lot of human beings on earth are just surviving, just like, I need money, I need food, need shelter. That could be very lower chakra energies. And then we rise up to the upper chakras, more spiritual information, oneness, all the beautiful things. But we're humans and we have to manage the whole range, the whole spectrum, the whole hierarchy of needs. There's another side to the chakras, which is their intuitive abilities. So our first chakra might be able to sense danger, right? Our second chakra could feel other people's feelings. Our sixth chakra sees energy. Our seventh knows things without even needing to go from point A to point B. And so as we develop our intuitive abilities, we unlock the spiritual abilities from each of these energy centers.
Module 4, See Energy Through Symbols and Neutrality for Clearer Vision and Personal Growth.
And we did some of that in our meditation today, which is, okay, David, if I look at energy, where am I looking? So we need a symbol to hold or be a container for that energy. We need to know where to look and how to look. So that's what we'll be doing there.
Module 5, Master creation, destruction, and image clarity to manifest your desires through the power of visualization.
Very short story. When I was a kid, Stephen, I remember 6 years old or so, picking up a newspaper, maybe it was the New York Times, looking at the words going, I will never be able to read that. There are thousands of letters. And then as an adult, it's no big deal at all. That's how we can actually grow into reading and seeing energy. And part of that is being able to create and see mental image pictures and destroy them, and being okay with creation and destruction. We practice that, and it builds that psychic muscle that's been in atrophy for most people.
Module 6, eliminate filters for accurate perception to see the truth and let go of pain from your past.
We also talked about this, not doing readings from a wounded place or the programming and perceptions of our society. So how do we remove those filters, not interpret it, and really start to just see energy clearly? And how do we release and heal some of those wounds and filters so that we can do that?
And finally, module 7, practice energy reading for clarity and certainty so you can help others and facilitate your personal evolution.
One of the things I've noticed in this kind of reading spiritual world space is that a lot of people will see an image or an energy and they'll interpret it. Oh, that hawk means you're going on a trip or you're going to be free. You know, they instead of reading and knowing what they're looking at, they start interpreting and they actually lose the truth. And maybe they spin the person out or send them down the wrong path. So an important part of being an accurate and clear reader of ourselves and or of others, we have to learn how to not interpret, but see and know the energy that we're looking at. And that's where we're going to finish the course off, is really how to do that in a clear way.
Well, it's such a clear, balanced, and grounded program that really is going to lay great foundations for people, I can tell. So really great stuff. So again, it's at the URL thirdeyetraining.com. It's a 7-week program. There's no prerequisites. And you get, in addition to the 7 90-minute live sessions with David, you're going to get interaction time, ability to ask your questions live. You also get recordings of every session, both video and audio, as well as word-for-word transcripts to work with, study, and highlight. There'll be weekly exercise for home and a Facebook community to support and deepen your sense of community around this work, as well as small group time to connect with other participants. And on the page, you'll see a number of extra bonuses that really enhance your journey. They're quite generous. There's a PDF excerpt from the book, The 7 Energies of the Soul by David. It's called Explore Your Healer Energy. There's 3 months of David's meditation app for free. It's a great extra bonus. David, you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, either through the app or just web-based, you can explore my classes and teachings. We go into some really cool energy tools and topics like healing, sleep, relationships, all the good stuff that you might want some meditation help for.
Great. And then there's also a 7 Energies of the Soul quiz that David has specially designed. And in addition, there's a 4th bonus that is a special bonus you get when you sign up by midnight Pacific time. This gives you a reason to really tune in now and use your third eye to discern if this is the right next step for you. So if you move forward, you're going to get that Becoming the Healer meditation course. It's a full video course from David, just as a bonus. So David, want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, and I've been working with the Empath Summit for some years with Shift, and this is a really special topic and close to a lot of people's hearts of what it means to be a healthy healer, whether it's a professional healer or just in your relationship space, your family, with your kids, with the world around you, how to be sensitive and not close down and hide, but actually use those natural feeling and healing abilities and be grounded and healthy. Just like we could be a healthy or unhealthy energy reader, we can also be a healthy or unhealthy healer. And that's what we go through in that course.
Great stuff. Well, that's an amazing extra bonus to sign up right away. So again, the whole program is laid out in detail at thirdeyetraining.com. And it's also good to go to the page and really look through the testimonials, really get the sense of the value of what has happened in people's lives as a result of learning from David. So you know that you're really in good hands. An incredible sense of humor and calm voice enabled me to stop taking my stress seriously. Can't believe how quickly I was able to make progress. Really great testimonials. We've kept the investment for this journey really accessible. It's just 3 payments of $128, so you save 10% when you pay in full with 1 payment of $349. The course is going to start on September 19th and run Tuesdays at 9 Pacific, noon Eastern. But even if you can't make those live times, you can still get the full value with the recordings and transcripts in the community as well. So you're in for a treat, and you're in for a great adventure, and to really lay good foundations for having your third eye be your best ally in this life and really help you navigate all the challenges that human life brings us. So again, all the details are at thirdeyetraining.com, thirdeyetraining.com. So David, we still have a few minutes left. Anything that's still on your heart you want to share with folks who are considering going deeper into the third eye training with you?
Yeah, Stephen, you just reminded me of a really important pivotal moment on my journey where I got that reading in India and I decided to move to Hawaii. I had no money, probably couldn't afford this course. I had nothing going on. I was in my 20s, and I bought a plane ticket to Hawaii. I was like, I'm going to go to the school, didn't have a place to stay, landed on the Big Island. I hitchhiked out of the airport. Someone dropped me off at a hostel. Someone gave me a free place to live on a farm where I picked lettuce. And I, got a paying job, did my intuitive training, worked my way up over time. But I just remember, Stephen, being so damn thirsty and ready, and had such a fire for understanding these tools and information, and going, how could somebody see inside me like that, know how I feel and what my path looks like? I want to be able to do that for myself. I never thought I would be a teacher. I never thought I would do it professionally. It just kind of happened and unfolded that when I grew into it. But the tools themselves, the meditation practice, all of the energy work really changed my life. And I just wanted to share that because it's so easy now. There was no online courses then, no YouTube, no podcasts, no apps. I physically had to go to the middle of the Pacific Ocean, work to pay the tuition, and sit in a crappy green chair with my eyes closed for 7 years, sweating it out. And so I'm so happy that it's easier and more accessible now, but that doesn't mean it takes less commitment or energy, because you still have to do that inner work. And I'm just excited to sit with a new group of students that want to do this work, teach them the real tools, and help them master themselves and really learn how to see energy. Because I've done a lot on this planet. I've lived in a lot of places, and it's the coolest thing I've ever gotten to do, to close my eyes and learn how to see energy. And I want to share that with people. So thank you for letting me talk for the past hour about it.
Well, thank you so much. Your enthusiasm is very contagious, and your dedication is really palpable. So thank you, David, for all the wisdom shared in this hour. And thank you for the opportunity for all of us to go deeper in your training. So again, that's the Third Eye Training. Perceive and read energy fluently, expand your internal guidance system, and navigate life with greater clarity. And you can get all the details at thirdeyetraining.com. If you get signed up today, you will get that special bonus of the full Becoming the Healer meditation course. So thank you all for coming today, and many blessings. And thank you, David, for your depth and wisdom that you shared today. Beautiful.
Thank you, Stephen. And pardon the pun, I'll see you all in class.
Indeed.